body, in which they're able to suppress your immune system, which ultimately is suppressing the health of your body and your spirit. Human liver flukes and cancer. Human liver flukes, very common. Human liver flukes are very common. Again, the editing on this document is terrible. And like strongyloids, they become more plentiful as we age. It is not surprising that they play a role in cancer. In fact, scientists in Asian countries have often proclaimed their theories, they're more than just theories, that this fluke actually is the chief cause of cancer, at least liver cancer. After a traditional liver cleanse, you may see dozens of these in the toilet bowl, but have shrunk to 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch. They go unnoticed. The association between this fluke and liver cancer has been studied for decades. The fact that it plays a role in every cancer would be more obscure without the technology of the synchrometer. The smallest piece of apple, a wedge the size of a penny, brings fluoridazine to the pituitary gland in the brain. Okay, I didn't know that. And some to every bit of pituitary in the body, such as bits traveling in food lymph. It only persists, though, if this parasite is present. Clonorca, again, another word. So that's interesting. And this is another phenomenon I think that's relevant too. I thought just transitioning and eating a healthy diet would be enough to remove these parasites. Perhaps it may be over a very, very, very long period of time. And by that I mean more than decades. Because I was eating very healthy, but it wasn't improving anything. And so what this is indicating to me here is that you can even eat a healthy diet of things like apples, but that, if parasites are present, is going to facilitate the parasites maintaining a presence in your body. To me, it just seemed like, and I read somewhere else, is that you can cut out dairy, you can cut out sugar, you can cut out all of these toxic foods, and you should, right? As we touched on in a previous lesson, Daniel speaks to the type of diet that's healthiest for us as Israelites. But you can eat these healthy foods, and if the parasites are already there, the parasites just switch their food source over to the healthy foods. It may not be ideal from them, but once they reach a certain stage where they have a stronghold and they're at certain maturity levels, at least in my experience, they just switch their source of food from their preferred items like dairy to all of the healthy foods that you eat. Parasites in the pancreas. The food allergen gallic acid has accumulated in the pancreas in cancer patients. Again, this is an associated parasite. This time it is the pancreatic fluke with the scientific name Erythrema pancreaticum. This is the same parasite that brings us diabetes. It is very common, probably due to our probably due to our consumption of non-sterile dairy products. Cow's milk and cheese always have eggs and larval stages of this pancreatic fluke. And I had read that somewhere else. It's virtually inescapable, these parasites. They are in the food we eat, the water that we drink, as this indicates here, and it's in the air we breathe. You can breathe these in. So essentially there's no escape from it. Prince of the Power of the Air comes to mind, right? There's really no escape from it other than cleansing your temple, cleansing your body spiritually and carnally, so that when these things do come up against you, your immune system is naturally able to deal with it. And again, I'm speaking carnally, but this goes spiritually as well. Its essential role in the initiation of cancer could not have been guessed, because milk drinking and cancer seem quite far apart. Without erythremia, erythema, gallic acid does not accumulate. In fact, it is gone in minutes, nor does the pancreas begin its micro-explosion. Okay, I don't know what the micro-explosion is, but interesting. So many of these compounds that are not beneficial for us to have for long periods of time in our body are kept in our bodies when these parasites are present, and arguably the more you have of them, the longer it stays. 3 parasites, 3 allergens, and 3 organs. All 3 parasites must be present to make the 3 food allergens pile up. The 3 organs involved in starting a tumor. Without them, no sticky snowball could form to become the tumor nucleus. Not only should we avoid the foods with these allergens, we should kill the parasites responsible for it all. We will have 3 more links to perfect prevention of cancer. So the focus here is on cancer, but again, this really relates to all diseases. And although this article got quite specific, I want to reiterate the general point, which is we all have parasites. We all have them. We need to get rid of them in order to facilitate and develop our spiritual powers, because without a clean temple, that's not going to happen. Before I move on to a couple of other posts, let me just pull up a scripture about temple cleaning. John 2:15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money and overthrew the tables. There's a lot to unpack there, but I'm simply going to look at what's going on here carnally, which is the Messiah comes in, and we see this many times in the past when we as a nation had gone off, the temple became polluted with it could have been heathen idols. In this case, it's money changers, and basically it's been made into a marketplace. And the Messiah comes in and drives them all out. And again, as we've seen in there are examples in the Old Testament where when we return to the Most High Yahawah as a nation, the temple gets cleansed. And as I alluded to before, physically, this is what we need to do right now. We need to clean our temple physically to fully return to the Most High. There is no way around it. Our temples need to be cleaned on a physical level, in addition to mentally, spiritually. Okay. I'll touch on this scripture here as well. Matthew 12:28. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of the Most High, then the kingdom of Yahawah is come unto you. I will go more into detail on this in a later lesson, but here's what I'm going to posit, is that the Messiah was casting devils out of people on a spiritual level, but also on a physical level, what we would colloquially known as, and I can see this being very controversial, but I really believe by the Spirit this is the case. He was getting these parasites out of people, in particular getting things like tapeworms out of them. So again, I don't fully, I've alluded to a lot of the carnal mechanisms through which I believe this happened, but when you take a look at this word cast out, I found something very interesting. So let's see how it says.
Strong's G 1544. Ekbalo. Ekbalo.
Okay, apparently that's how you say it. It's Greek, so, Greek is an Edomite language. I will leave it at that. To cast out, drive out, to send out. The notion of violence, sure, as we saw regarding the son with epilepsy in a previous lesson. To drive out, to cast out of the world, i.e. be deprived of power and influence he exercises in the world, right? This all makes sense. But here is where I am referring to cast out a thing, excrement from the belly into the sink. So there is a physical component, a physical understanding of this word here. Let's see, it's translated in other areas as cast out, 45 times, cast, 11, bring forth, 3, pull out, 3, send forth, 3 times. So here we have this notion that there is a physical expulsion associated with the exorcism of devils from us. Let's see what else it says here. To compel to depart, to draw out, tear out, with implication of force, overcoming opposite force. So many concepts here, good versus evil, without the notion of violence. So I'm positing here that this is going on. I'm not saying in all cases, I wasn't there in this body, but I'm positing that there were actual worms coming out of people at the time of these deliverances. Maybe not in all cases, but through the Spirit I'm saying this. This is a side note for research. You can find, if you can Google images of parasites and worms coming out of people, you can read stories about them. People seeing parasites come out of people. Oftentimes you'll find this in third world countries where they're much more familiar with what's going on here. But you will find this also in the West as well. And it's been my experience that when you are very, very, very healthy, the parasites will come out from you alive. When you're very, very sick, but your body is starting to get better, they generally don't come out alive. They're usually dead on arrival because the body is approaching the problem in different ways. The reason why I believe this is the body, when it's very healthy, like a child, for instance, it has more efficient methods to expel the parasites, and the parasites haven't taken much of a stronghold at that point, so they're able to be eliminated that way. Otherwise, if they have taken a stronghold, the body has to tackle the problem in a different way. There's a point I wanted to bring out on that as well, but it escapes me. One story comes to mind where a gentleman, I'll just pull this up.